Welcome everybody. My name is Enrique Nieto. I'm the Deputy Team Leader of the Rural Pact Support Office. And this is a good practice webinar where we will go through a very important topic for rural areas on rural innovation. The angle that we gave to the webinar is about supporting ecosystems that actually enable innovative experiences and initiatives to emerge in rural area. This is key for the future of our territories in order to ensure that rural areas are more resilient and more competitive. And these are two important words for the future as well of rural policies. And we will see that these words also will be coming up during the day: competitiveness, resilience, ensuring the economic diversification as well in our rural areas to achieve those. I'm going to share my screen to give you a very quick overview of what we are planning to do today. And I was checking the sharing the screen of everybody except me, so I really hope it is going to work. Okay, so bear with me. I'm opening, and I'm gonna try to share now. Share PPT, share, and voila. So this event is actually for you. We call it Good Practice Webinar. It's a space for peer learning. It's a space to interact. It's a space to learn. So here we want to see your faces. So we advise you to have your microphone on. We're doing it in Zoom, so there is a functionality to raise your hand so that you can participate. You can share your thoughts, your ideas, your experience. You will see there are colleagues renaming you. Don't worry about that. We're going to put a number in front of your name. It is very good that you also put your name and organization, and if you have space, your member state, so that other people know who you are. The meeting is going to be recorded, so I asked my colleagues, it's already being recorded. Just to let you know that all the presentations will be shared with you, so don't worry. There are going to be as well video material about all the presentations and a report that will also be circulated by email to you. We have a very packed agenda, so I'm going to summarize the different blocks we are going to cover. So we will start with a keynote from the OECD. They have done a lot of work on rural innovation and rural innovation ecosystems. We will have a first block, which is about EU initiatives, so initiatives from the European Commission to support place-based rural innovation. The next block will focus on national member states initiatives that are supporting the creation and the implementation of rural innovation ecosystem. Then we will look at different European projects that are financed through different European funds, so that it is also to show that it's also possible to use the different instruments at EU level to support rural innovation. Then we will split into different groups. The three topics are related to supporting or boosting innovation for the digital and technological transition. So if you see a 1 in your name, means you're going to be in that group. There would be a second group on the ecological transition, and there is going to be a third group, which is going to be on the social and just transition. So 1, 2, 3 in your name will mean the group in which you are in. Then we will bring all these discussions together in plenary and have the conclusions. So who is here today? This is a good practice webinar. Innovation involves a lot of different actors at different levels. We will have more than 17 speakers providing you input and relevant experiences. Of course, also most of you as well have relevant experiences, and so you will be able to share them during the day. We have received more than 274 applications. This is a flexible format. We want you to stay the whole day, but we accept people come in and go and to be part of the different sessions that they're interested in. We got applications from 27 EU member states, but also from 8 non-EU member states. So I think that participation will enrich as well the angles. You see a graph here, more or less, of the number of people that register from the type of stakeholders. So we have a big focus on civil society organizations. Also in this webinar, we have quite a number of private businesses joining. We have public authorities, local action groups, academics, EU institutions, and rural networks. Also, we have citizens and international organizations. What is important is as well that this is an event of the Rural Pact. It is mostly communicated through our channel, but still 40% of the people that register are not receiving any information about our events. So we encourage, if you don't get emails or a newsletter from us, please register. And also, half of you are not members of the Rural Pack Community Platform. This is an online platform where we try to bring the community and will allow you to do a lot of things actually with that community. So either join specific community groups, connect with other peers that might have similar interest, and also more importantly as well to get informed about all the events that we implement. So that's all from my side. And to wake up, because it's early in the morning, I'd like to give the floor to my colleague, no, sorry, Benetta. We would like to run a quick poll to start getting into the thinking process and mood. And here you have, and the question is quite simple. It's only one question, it's multiple choice, but we want to already know from you which of the following challenges are the most common in your territory when it comes to supporting innovative initiatives. So is it about knowledge access? Is it about networking opportunities, technical and legal expertise, funding availability, or administrative barriers? We're going to give you a bit of time. We are already almost 100. Oh, we are now 100 people. So when I see an important number of answers, we will see the results, because I understand you are not able to see the results. We got 54 people answering and growing, so I want to give you all a chance because still growing fast. But I can tell you we see already interesting things coming up. Okay, we are 70. Let's stop it at this point. I mean, this is just a quick exercise to get in the discussions already. So if we can share the results, I hope you are seeing them. You will see that there are two main challenges that are outlined as the more common. Funding, we know this is an important one, so we will have to dig into that probably during the group discussions. Administrative barriers, complex procedures, lack of flexibility and clear frameworks, etc. It's also highlighted, but of course also the other three, let's say, are on the second level, but equally important: technical and legal expertise, networking opportunities, and knowledge access. It seems we more or less ticked or identified some of the important ones. Of course, this has been an easy exercise because you shared that information as well with us during your registration. So these would be aspects, hopefully, that we can dig into more detail during the day. Okay. In terms of other issues, 8%, 6 people flagged them. There would be opportunities as well for you to share if there are additional points that we need to think about. Okay, so right good on time. I would like to welcome, so we can stop sharing the poll. I'd like to welcome Eduardo Montemayor. He's from the OECD. They have been working for many years on the topic of rural innovation and even supporting individual countries on rural innovation. And he accepted our invitation to be a keynote speaker to frame a little bit the day and the topic for us. So, Eduardo, thank you very much, and the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you very much, Enrique. And let me start by sharing my screen. You should be able to see my presentation. Is that correct? Can you confirm?
Yes, we see it. Maybe we can hide the white bar, clicking in
Yes,
hide.
of course.
That would be fantastic.
Perfect. Brilliant. Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you for the opportunity to open today's conversation on rural innovation. And let me start by emphasizing that rural innovation is already happening. And fully understanding rural innovation changes the conversation about rural, because rural places are often talked about in terms of decline, aging, the population, or underinvestment. But this story is incomplete. Rural regions are not waiting for rescue. They are solving hard problems with creativity, adaptability, and deep community roots. In fact, some of the most exciting innovation across the OECD is happening far from the big cities, often out of necessity, not luxury. Yet, this is not only about survival. In a world defined by the twin transition of digital, green transition, some of the most important innovation is potentially coming from the margins. Moreover, rural regions and remote regions can be testing ground for innovation, be in for renewable energy or automation. At the OECD, we have been working with members countries to understand how such innovations happen on the ground and key success factors. There are many challenges and barriers for rural innovation, which definitely still is still
Sorry,
whi-
let's mute colleagues, please.
which is definitely still being helped.
Sorry, Eduardo, let
I,
me see. It's
I can.
yeah, now it's muted. So all for you
Is
again.
everything okay? Okay, yeah. Um, well, there are of course many challenges that rural places are facing for innovation, but at the same time, there are multiple success stories which highlight the potential of rural places. And some stories are extraordinary. Just to give one example, is that we identified is the Kamo Aquarium in Japan, which started as a public-supported tourist initiative, but actually over time it helped win a Nobel Prize via research through community research partnerships. But the message here is that these stories, they are not exceptions, they are signals. We are seeing pockets of rural dynamism driven by proximity to cities, smaller cities, strong manufacturing bases, and smart policy. Now, of course, rural places are at a crossroads. And so let's start with the challenges. The challenges are large, and rural places are at a crossroads to define their future. Our new granular economic data that we are using at the OECD for different types of rural places, close to cities and remote rural places, shows that the urban-rural divergence is accelerating. It has been accelerating over time, particularly after the 2008 global financial crisis. And just to give you some facts from our recent publication on reinforcing rural resilience, there has been a gap in economic growth between urban areas and rural areas, and the gap has been of over 10 percentage points in the last 2 decades, which is large. Over 40% of more remote rural regions are already shrinking, which is a big number. And in 11 OECD countries, rural populations are actually already decreasing. In addition, the share of older population has doubled since 2001, with dependency ratios that are much larger. And workers aged over 50 have become the highest share of the rural workforce this decade, which is important and which hasn't happened in the urban areas just yet. So these are important challenges that rural places need to overcome in order to prosper in the new economy. Now, it is actually possible to prosper in this new economy. Not all is green for rural places. The same OECD data shows several pockets of growth. Just to give you some high-level trends that we observed in the data, rural GDP growth is strong in some countries. Actually, in 3 OECD countries, rural GDP growth has outpaced metro areas, urban areas. This is the example of Germany, Austria, or Portugal. And if we think in terms of GDP per capita trends, the picture is actually more positive. Actually, in 16 OECD countries, rural regions are converging to the national average on GDP per capita, which basically means that they are outpacing metro areas, urban areas, in terms of GDP per capita growth. Now, what is driving this? What our recent OECD publication summarizes what we call the star sources of rural growth. S, specific assets, which is basically, one example is renewable energy, which is a large opportunity, with over 60% of this energy coming from rural places. T, tradables. Rural areas near cities perform better, and manufacturing innovations continues to be a key role. 1 in 2 manufacturing jobs are in rural places. A, well, access to urban, again, manufacturing and logistics, with the benefit of urban markets while taking advantage of more space and access to natural resources. And of course, R, which are the natural resources. And here, just mining, for instance, is a clear example of prosperity in rural places. So the message here is that the shrinking that is happening in rural places doesn't mean that rural regions are doomed. Automation and capital-intensive activities can maintain living standards. And the key here is to focus on value-added niche market, and innovation plays a key role here. And that innovation is already happening with automation, where capital is substituting for the lack of labor and skill shortages to contribute to efficiency and productivity gains in rural places, being manufacturing, agriculture, or other sectors. And this is what is helping maintain GDP per capita levels in rural regions. Now, of course, still rural innovation is lagging behind, and innovation systems are not yet catering rural places. We see some figures here in terms of the low R&D activity that is happening in rural places, research and development, and also with entrepreneurship level that are significantly lower in rural places, with 25% fewer young startups entrepreneur in rural areas compared to the urban areas relative to the population. But here, the biggest challenge here is not that rural innovation isn't creative or is lacking ambition. The an OECD survey highlights that what is holding back rural regions are, well, access to public services and skill shortages. And in this context, young entrepreneurs in rural regions are at a disadvantage here. And we have seen this in different places, including in the European Union, where young rural entrepreneurs are less likely to start a company than their urban counterparts. And that likelihood can be 9-10% lower than in urban places. However, even when rural innovation is present, it is often overlooked. There is a bias in innovation policy that overvalues high-tech and undervalues process, social, and community innovations, which are critical in rural settings, where in great part of the reported well-being in rural residents is driven by access to services, and it is here where innovation matters. However, rural innovation is too often invisible because we are not measuring rural innovation right. Yes, in metro areas, we see that roughly 150 patents per million people are being generated, and in remote areas, the figure is just 25. However, the message here is that innovation in rural regions isn't always taking place in labs. It is about being smarter with service delivery, community-driven broadband, logistics adapted to remoteness. And it is here where communities are getting creative. And here we need to emphasize that the support system for rural innovation needs to go beyond science and technology. And we have identified several examples, be in Scotland or be in Switzerland, where communities are supporting social entrepreneurs to deliver better services, or even being more innovative in how they think about innovation to find solutions for rural problems using design thinking and other advanced methods. So, is rural innovation a hidden strength? Yes, actually, rural innovation can be a strength for rural places. The rural innovation always faces barriers, and it can be larger than usually expected. We know that rural innovation can be underestimated. And here I'm just showing here some figures that are coming from the US in terms of the patents being generated across different types of places. What we observe is that, yes, patents being generated in rural places are much lower in terms of the absolute number. But when we adjust for the number of occupations that are dedicated to inventive activities in rural places, actually the rate of conversion of patents is not that bad. So we need to think in terms of the structure of the rural economy in order to understand the innovation that matters for them. So the second message is that rural innovation is different. While rural enterprises are less likely to participate in science and technology innovation, rural contexts require other type of innovation, incremental innovation, public and social innovation. And it is here where even if these statistics do not pick up the innovation that is taking place in rural places, it is happening. Rural places are users of innovation that are taking place in technology adoption in biogas, mining plants, and many other sectors. And here in the table, I'm just showing a few examples, just a selection of examples of different types of rural innovation that are taking place across the OECD and some other countries as well. And these examples here emphasize how innovation is rooted in place resources that many times is being led by civic groups, and many times it's about delivering better services, and also places where rural places can innovate with regulation in order to find solutions for the specific problems of their communities. So what can we do? Well, this is about building the conditions for success. Rural innovation is not an add-on, it's a strategic lever for resilience, for productivity and inclusion. And this requires a shift to policies that promote differentiation and niche market as opposed to just promoting low-cost manufacturing. But we must change how we measure, finance, and support it. Let's stop trying to retrofit urban policies to rural realities. We need to co-design with rural entrepreneurs, civil society, and communities. And this is not about returning to the past, it's about rural regions embracing the future. And remember, Switzerland is trying design thinking to find new solutions. Portugal is blending in many initiative tradition with technology. And the key success factors are about, first of all, going beyond science and technology again. We need to support social innovation, service delivery, process change. We need to design policies for rural farms and people tailored to the scale, structure, and demographics of their communities. And of course, we need to build linkages and platforms that enable rural-urban collaboration, coordination, and experimentation. So a main concluding element here is that we need to make rural innovation visible, viable, and valued. And just as a final message, is a key policy takeaway from this is that policies and action need to be place-based. We need to remember that rural is not just one story. Place-based policies need to try experimentation, community architecture, basically building the connections and network for innovating in places. And it is also about being creative with regulatory tailoring that caters into the specific problems of their communities. Again, what rural innovation needs is a policy that recognizes, that invests in it, and of course, that co-create with it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Eduardo. Very inspiring presentation. Indeed, you touch upon very important concepts that we need to have in mind. I think important one is that we are not looking at, maybe you can as well stop sharing, fantastic. We are not looking at innovation from the very technological angle. Rural areas, innovation in rural areas happen in a much broader sense. And that it cannot be work in isolation. It needs to be place-based. It needs to count with the territory. It needs to align not only with what the sectoral policies for innovation, but needs to be connected with the territory and other issues in the territory to have the enabling conditions for innovation to drive.